Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the next episode of the 12 Monkeys. It's tether time. We've all reconnected again, and with quite a bit of joy, I might add, as we all pumped to talk about this installment's episodes, which are Fatherland, Resurrection, and Blood Washed Away, which leaves us with one episode left in season 2, and then the first episode of season 3. That will be our next installment of the podcast, where we'll just do those 2 episodes. But as I was talking to Jesse before we started, the Blood Washed Away almost felt like the season finale in a lot of ways. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. First of all, let's say hello to my 2 tethered time mates. Karen, hello. How are you doing?
Hi there. I'm good. I can't wait to talk about these.
Fantastic. And Jesse?
Hello, Lou. Hello, Karen. Yes, if we pull back the curtain, we usually do a dual recording. We record for our Babylon 5 episode, and then we take a bio break, and then we do whatever subject we're talking about for now, 12 Monkeys. And I think all 3 of us were just getting through the B5 episode to get to this one.
Not our favorite B5 episode. So
yeah, I was perfectly happy with it. But this series, you talk about ramping up to 11. They just aren't they?
Yes, for sure. And normally we work our way through these episodes by going through the main characters. But I just have to say off the top of the bat, the Fatherland episode I got quite a kick out of seeing another great Canadian kid, Matt Frewer, always be the trash can man to me from the 90 whatever, the Stand miniseries based on the Stephen King novel.
Oh, come on. Max Headroom all the way.
Max Headroom, yeah, but I still like the trash can man better.
Yeah.
But that episode in itself was just, like Jesse said, it was the pedal to the metal for all 3 of these episodes. And there's just so much going on with the main characters. You've got these dynamics between Cole and Ramsey and Riley. It's like this triad of relationships. It's not quite the same as, say, like a Kirk, Spock, McCoy mechanic going on here, but it's just interesting that Ramsey and Riley are on an opposite track from Cole. Cole and I guess Cassie have changed roles in certain respects in this episode. I do think the character approach is the best way to go still. Karen, I'm going to start with you, but I'll let you pick which character you want to talk about first. And we also have to probably elevate Jennifer into this conversation as well, because she had such a big part in these episodes. Starting with Fatherland, why don't you pick a character for me and let me know what really grabbed you about that particular episode?
Sure. We can start with Kirshner, if you like. That's Matt Frewer's character. That was really interesting to see. I'm guessing that when they reference the father, that's who they're talking about. He was behind everything, essentially creating the messengers, creating Olivia. And as we know, Olivia is the striking woman. Just incredibly interesting to see his involvement. And the fact that they made him a Nazi, I'm guessing it had symbolism as well, that he's on the wrong side of history in all things. He considers himself on the right side of everything, even though he had doubts about what he was doing in the war. And I do like the line that he says to Ramsey, where he says, okay, you're going to see things in here. Don't let sympathy get in your way. And what he's saying is, kill this chick and you'll have what you want. But of course they can't. They just can't do that. I think that Cassie is more inclined, even though it's do no harm in her head over and over. And Ramsey just decides he wants the map instead in his little office. But Kirshner, he is a coward, as we saw. They were beating him up and he was willing to give up whatever they wanted. And he will go with Ramsey and Cassie over getting beaten up, even though he doesn't know what they want. He's just what we think of as like a runaway Nazi. When they get picked up later, they disavow any knowledge until the pressure's put on them, and then all of a sudden they confess everything. I thought it was cool, and to see the Mossad agents with him and everything. What a great portrayal by Matt Frewer in a tiny little role, but it has major ramifications for the entire series. And I love him in anything. He was in Orphan Black. He was great in that. And if you've never watched the Max Headroom series, man, that is good. It's not his Coke commercials at all. He is great in that. So I recommend you find anything with Matt Frewer and give it a watch, because he's fantastic. And he is the man of 1,000 characters. He can really pull off, no matter what he does, the character.
Jesse.
Yeah, I love the idea that this show is going to bear up to rewatching, because there's so much myth building and character reveals that we get the striking woman's origin story and we connect more characters. And of course, we're building a perfect race. So why wouldn't we have someone as a Nazi, and not even this powerful, courageous, this is a sniveling little guy. And we go from our arc where our first episode, it was all about kill the guy, stop the virus. Just save the cheerleader, save the world. This is the opposite. Kill this guy, kill the scientist, save the world. And our three, and let's exclude Jennifer a minute, but our three core people have just rotated on motivation and thoughts and alliances constantly that keeps you busy. So yeah, I adored seeing Matthew Frewer as the Doctor. And
is that a Freudian slip? Frewer?
Yeah, Frewer, yeah.
Matt Frewer, yeah.
Yeah. And I will tell you, the other thing that was really surprising and lovely was Jay Carnes coming back as Agent Robert Gale.
Agreed.
And the idea that he is older and knowing the future has effed his life up.
Yep. Cassie.
Yeah, I did not expect to see him back, and to see him back again. And the way he was talking to Cole, there's an implication he'll be back again because he's like talking about how much we know each other.
Yeah.
Like, what? And he's, oh yeah, I would love to interview this showrunner and talk about, like, to Terry Malice. Yeah. And I don't know how much Travis Fickett is involved too, but how much did they? I wish there was an official podcast, like a lot of times HBO does, or the guy, or like the guy who did Breaking Bad. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but he'll be on a podcast about, this is where we came up with this story. This we're doing. This has to be that big paper that we saw with all the different timelines. They must have something like this for that series. Yeah. So I don't know if I answered enough about the Doctor, but that's my initial thoughts about that topic.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned Terry Matalas, because he is, I believe today, he's going to be on the and I mentioned this one before, the Shuttle Pod show, which is two of the actors from Enterprise, Trip and the security guy, Dominic. I can't remember his name, but Terry Matalas is their guest star. So at least if you want to find out what his thought process was behind Picard season 3, I highly recommend checking out that podcast. And I just would recommend that podcast in general, because they get all the stars from all the various Star Trek series on there. And it's just fascinating listening to them talk about their experiences with the show and the franchise. So let's turn to the trio, at least to begin with. The scene at the bar, when they've all made the jump to 1957, that scene came back with a big bang at the end of the episode, with especially between Cole and Cassie. But that betrayal, that those two, that Ramsey and Cassie would drug Cole and take him out of the equation so that they could go rogue was so well done. And the payoff, and the show does pay off just so well. The betrayal, the hurt that Cole had from that was a gut punch for me. And I'm just wondering how you thought that all played out.
Yes, I loved this twist that Cassie and Cole, and then Cassie and Ramsey never got along, right? I want the pandemic, I want the virus to happen because then I get my son. I don't want this. And now then they're united in trying to to find this witness and to do this. And we get into this the compound is going to be engulfed by the Red Forest in 4 or 5 days. And so we have one jump left, which is convenient. And there's the debate on what do we do? How do we do this? Do we go to Titan and save things, or do we do this? And I love, and I knew something was weird when they were sitting there and, oh, want a drink? And Cole's just, oh, you remembered. Oh,
he's a guy, so he doesn't have that ingrained. Never take a drink that you didn't see poured.
Yeah. And hey, what's going on? And I think they both feel guilty, but they also, the end justifies the means. And a lot of this show is about doing bad things that you think ultimately are going to be for the right reasons.
Right.
And that complication makes this. I love Timeless. I think Timeless was an amazing series.
Great.
Yeah. But it is ultimately a series of hope and positive things. I don't know what end game on this series is. I can't see how everything ends up happy and sunny.
Mm-hmm.
And so you find your little joys where you find them. And when we get to a couple episodes from now, we'll talk about that. But yeah, I just love that the more we spend time with these characters, the more Aaron Stanford impresses me. Kirk Avicita, we've always loved, right? We talked about him. And Amanda Schull is just, I say this with love in my heart, she must walk through Hallmark movies, right? She's working on something else in her mind and she's just going through it.
Yeah, those aren't exactly known for their depth. And
she's just killing it in this series. And these 3 episodes especially, she has so much to play. I just am loving it.
Y'all, just so you know, Jesse has little hearts coming out of his eyes right now.
Yes, I do. Yeah. And and we get a little scene we get to see a little bit. Yes. Yes. Yep. I was hitting the like button on my screen.
Were you?
Yes.
A little nakedness.
Yeah.
Yep. Karen.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting that they were timing how close the Red was getting to the facility and trying to figure out how long it was going to be. And the fact that there was just one jump and that Cassie and Ramsey were willing to use it for revenge instead of to save people, I think that is really telling as to where they are right now. And one of my thoughts, it's funny that you mentioned that. When I'm watching the show, I'm thinking ahead, and I always look. Sometimes I do read the end of a book first, okay? Not always. No, not very often. When there's a book and I'm starting to read it and I'm like, is this going to end up in a good place?
Don't tell me you've watched the last episode of the series.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Not when it comes to something like this, I wouldn't. Okay. But I'm thinking to myself, how is this going to end? And is the world going to be gone? It's just so weird to see they've mucked things up so much. How can they fix it? They have to go back to the Big Bang in order to fix it, it seems. Yeah. So I really get a sense of kind of foreboding as to where is this going? And especially in these 3 episodes where it looks like it could be such a definitive ending of the series. Everybody dies deal with this.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's really cool. I love that Cassie changes her mind and decides to go with Cole after all of the faffing about.
Mhm.
She gets out of the car with Ramsey and decides to run back to the facility. And that they go back in time, and Jennifer realizes at that point that they can't go back. And it's just, these 3 episodes were such a roller coaster of emotions. Oh, my emotions. It's that kind of thing. And then I'm rambling at this point, but it's so good. That first episode in particular, and then the last one, the middle one was great too. But I think the last one, Blood Washed Away, in these 3 had the most impact to me, and it had the most emotion. But Resurrection was great too, especially with Emily Hampshire. She is fantastic, and I think it really highlighted her acting ability, and that she plays both Jennifers but completely differently. So
Yeah.
I know I've gotten off track, but
That's okay. That's that kind of show.
yeah,
Don't worry
He
about
is
it.
that kind of show.
And I'll try to steer us back on track.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's just a couple of threads left over from the Fatherland that I want to touch upon. Like you guys, I think it was Jesse mentioned Olivia is the child in this episode. I'm still waiting to see the origin story of her brother, the Pale Man. That's going to be interesting. And the other thing that I wanted to mention, it's actually predates this episode, is we've lost a lot of characters too. I can't believe that Michael Hogan, who was Katrina's sort of love interest for a couple of episodes, he's gone too. He sacrificed himself in the previous episode to save the facility. Yeah, and again, that this episode, and I'm sure we're going to see it repeated, and we've mentioned this point before, is this show is a masterclass on how to make character actions seem believable, even when from the outset you would, if somebody told you that this character was going to do this, you say, well, that doesn't make any sense. That character wouldn't do that. But this show beautifully lays the groundwork for the characters to do actions that we wouldn't accredit to them. And I just like Cassie betraying Cole, to me was a big moment in this series. And they set it up, but they also showed the impact on their relationship afterwards. So they don't half-ass the character stuff, and I just can't emphasize that enough. And I think I'll give both of you an opportunity to start with you, Jesse. Your feelings about that particular aspect of the show.
Yeah, it feels like the showrunners are not afraid to go, what if? What if we reverse things around? What if we do this? What if we reveal the story behind the striking woman we wait till the second season? And you have to remember too, because I'm going back after I watch these, and I'm going to like Den of Geeks and reading episode synopsis, and they're talking about, God, I hope we get a renewal, right? So they're writing this with not even knowing if they're going to get another season.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I love the risks they take in storytelling. And let's take Deacon for an example. Mustache twirling, just the worst of the worst. This guy has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. And we have the little scene where we know why you're staying. They talk about all his people are leaving, and you know why he's staying. And we know that we didn't get to see it, but over that 8-9 months, he and Cassie became close. And we get that it may have been intimate once, right?
Once,
That's once. Yeah. And you may have to bleep this out. Hey, once he got a little taste of that, I want more. Right?
Yeah.
She's, no, you bad boy. Try a little tenderness. I love that he's not done a complete 180. You like him a little more. He brings enough humor in it. And once again, that scene where he comes back covered in blood and is, I respect you guys. Not, I got jealous. It's, I would have done that too, and bygones. Remember on Alec McBeal, the guy when he'd say something bad, he'd go, bygones. I just, that is courageous in a way, not that you're trying to fight for a better world, but it's courageous writing. It's, I'm going to count on this. And I remember once there was the showrunner on Modern Family, they talked about a joke that they were going to have the dad do. And the showrunner said, it's funny. And I have no doubt that actor, Ty, would knock it out of the park. But after a while, we have to realize, would Claire really like this guy? You love this guy if he was that out of there. And I love that they trust this actor enough that they can stretch the boundaries of character and likeness and just entertain that crap out of us. And yeah, I think this is, don't care if we're popular, don't care if we get good ratings. We're going to tell a hell of a story and hope that Josh Whedon used to talk about, I don't want millions. I don't want a throne of fans. I want a smaller, passionate fan group of Buffy versus everyone kind of liking it. And I think this is just something amazing.
Agreed. Yeah, Deacon. And we also get a naked scene for Deacon in one of the episodes that's completely different from the one we get of Cole and Cassie. Yeah. I've liked Deacon from the beginning, even though he was hateful. He was like the Negan at first glance, but he has become endearing. And I love that he fell in love with Cassie. He definitely fell in love with Cassie. But it seems like when they got to know each other over those 8 months that she just became, I don't know, I hate to say this, it's such a cliche, but like a beacon of hope. And he's trying to be better for her. And she's not having it. She just doesn't like him that way. And it makes him a very sympathetic character, because we've all had those one-sided relationships where we fall for someone and then we realize, oh, okay, it's one-sided. It was back in my youth. I had one of those. And it makes you feel that emotion again when you see how he reacts to everything. And that episode where he's just given in. Nothing is good in his life and everything goes bad. His people leave him. Cassie doesn't love him. The facility is not being guarded by his guys anymore because they've all abandoned him. And he just decides he's going to screw it all. I'm going to get naked and get drunk. And hopefully when I die, I go out the way I came in, and naked and afraid, essentially. I love that character. I love Deacon. And I highly doubt that he's going to become this main character in the show. Again, please, I'm sure I'm predicting something that is going to bite me in the butt later on. But man, is he a great character in this, and so realistic. When you see other television shows, and I'll say Firefly, for example, some of those characters, the show was good, and I really loved it. Some of those characters were very one-dimensional. And I'm not saying anything bad against them. They were written well and everything, but what's his name? The doctor, whose sister was River. I can't remember his name at all, but Simon. He was very...
Simon.
Yes.
Simon, thank you. His character was pretty one note to me, at least. And I think that there isn't anything on this show that's one note.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
Deacon
even
is a huge example of that.
Even I always call them the red shirts, but like the other techs in her team,
right?
Yeah,
like the guy with the gray hair. Is it Adler? Or am I mixing him up?
Yeah, I think Adler. Yeah.
He's lost a child too, but that character comes to life in these episodes too, and I'm probably,
and the bald one.
Yeah,
them.
To a lesser degree. Yeah.
So what I wanted to comment on something Karen said. We hear Deacon talk about watching Cassie on the TV, right? That,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
he had a massive crush on her. And then, and I'm reminded of the musician Marty Stewart tells the story that he watched Connie Smith perform once, a country music artist, and he met her. And afterwards, he told his mom, I'm going to marry her one day. And his first marriage was to Cindy Cash, so he is one of the very talented Johnny Cash. If you put a band together with his son-in-laws or ex-son-in-laws, it would be an all-star band because the amount of men they've married Johnny's daughters. But he ended up marrying Connie Smith in 1997. They are 17 years apart, and they're still married today. I love that she is a fantasy come to life for him, a picture of, you said, a beacon of hope. And he now has that chance. And we talked a little bit about how on Babylon 5, Lanier having this candle for Delenn may not end well, right? Unrequited love normally doesn't. But this is where he's there. And yeah, just to give that actor that kind of scene where, and then he's, okay, I guess I'm going to have to put some clothes on and do some good. It's just a joy.
Yeah,
It is.
that scene really made that character come to life. To see him that vulnerable, because he's been such a badass up until that point. You get to see his inner self, which is just done so beautifully. Like, it's shown to you, it's not told to you. So it's just a great thing. And the other thing that the show, go ahead.
We can put that together from all that we've learned about his background with his dad, his brother, all this stuff, and we see it, and it's 100% believable.
Yeah. And this next item I'm going to bring up is a little delicate, I guess, but there is the trope or the perception that if a girl sleeps around, that she's of a certain character. And we've seen Cassie now in 2 episodes that we know of, way back in first season with that plague in Chechnya, I think it was, or no, it was on the island. Haiti. Yeah. She slept with the black doctor.
Yeah.
And now, because it was a very intense situation and so forth with the plague. And then that scene with Cole or Deacon that we didn't see, but we were told that she thought that she was going to die. So they've done that without making her seem diminished as a woman. So I really appreciate that as well. Maybe it's a point that I shouldn't have raised. I don't know, but it is a common trope or perception in society today
real
still.
Life. Yeah.
So I wonder, Karen and then Jesse, how do you feel about that aspect of Cassie, or does it just make her seem like more of a real person to you?
It does make her feel like a real person to me. And I think personally that the thought that a woman is a slut because she sleeps around, we don't think that of men. And that's always been something that's bothered me. Why can't someone get pleasure? Why is it such a big deal that a woman does it? And I know in olden times it was bad because the woman could get pregnant and not knowing who the father is and all that stuff. It's a disgrace and all that, but it's not like that anymore. So I love that they've portrayed her as this woman who knows her sexuality, feels secure in it, takes comfort in it. And her one night stand with Deacon, it's shown they flipped it, where guys usually think the girl's going to be a clinger. She's going to want to get married. And it's completely the other way, where Deacon has fallen in love with her and was just one night. It wasn't anything serious. And I love that. I really love that. That's my women's lib coming out to play. But I am all for knowing your sexuality and just being unrepentantly you and doing what you feel is right for you. So I really dig her character getting it on as much as she wants to get it on. I'm good with that.
Jesse.
I absolutely agree with everything Karen says. It is a double standard that we have. And it isn't as she's having casual affairs.
Mm-hmm.
Each time there is an emotional reason why she is doing this,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And even if she was having casual affairs, it wouldn't matter. But
to her character is she feels something for everyone.
Yeah, she does. And to have that is just really well done. It is another sign of the good writing on this show that we are finding this more about this person and learning more about their circumstances. And I wonder, what would it happen to me or to you or any of our listeners if we'd had the experience she has, that we know the world's going to come in. I've gone to the future. I've heard that I've died. I've heard all these things that are happening. It is, I will talk again, try to find a little tenderness however I can. And so, yeah, I think I'm glad you brought it up. And I think it shows that if we want to oversimplify the series, it's finding connections, a way to find connections in a very bad world. And we show the detective wasn't able to find connections because he was so overwrought with the idea that my granddaughter world is going to end and there's nothing. I am someone who protects people and there's nothing I can do to help her, is just pretty strong.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I just think like that scene for Cole and for Cassie just made them more fleshed out characters to me. I just felt that when you get a scene serving a triple purpose, that's gold in a story, and that was one of those scenes that really worked. And in lesser hands, it could have been a really cringy scene, but it was just a wonderful character building moment for all of them. Okay, I was hesitant to bring it up, but I think it's important because I think in establishing these or building up these characters, I just love the mature handling of some of these tropes that in other series would anger fans and that. And I haven't read any reactions about the behavior of characters from other fan sites and that about how the leads and that are acting in this show, but I just know based on experience the tropes of males and females, how certain things play, and I just thought it was something I had to bring up.
And not just that, but in shows where there is definitely a romantic lead of a hero and a heroine, which I'm assuming would be Cole and Cassandra, right? They would be the leads. People get really mad when another romantic partner shows up. Yeah, like Chuck Shaw, or that block of wood, whatever it was. Yeah, Shaw was really bad. I like Brandon Routh, but man, he was bad in that. When there's an alternate love interest, people get mad, and I'm not mad at any of these people that she sleeps with or he sleeps with or anything. I think it is a testament to this show that the characters are so fleshed out that we understand why they are having these dalliances with people, and that they're because of situations they find themselves in. That they, like Jesse said, they want that connection. I also think it's about connections, making them, keeping them, deciding what to do about them is this entire series. And we see that throughout. Cassie's getting revenge because of her connections. Ramsey's getting revenge because of his connections. And Cole is making more connections, which makes him a more sympathetic person. It's really very much centered around that. I think that's a really great insight, Jesse.
Yeah, and then I love the aftermath of that, the Cassie Deacon scene in the next episode, Resurrection, when Cole comes to Deacon for help. And he finds out, or he can intuit pretty easily why Cole's bummed out, and then he can't really believe that that made that useless because of what happened between Deacon and Cassie. I just love that, and at the same time, it's been intimated through the previous episode, or ever since Cassie came back from the future, that something had gone on between Duncan and Cassie, and Cole knew, but he didn't quite know. But now he knows, and he's processing it, but he's not making a big deal of it at the same time. But I do think that it plays into actions in the next episode that we'll get into. But yeah, it's just how they carry these threads through each episode. Sometimes we get the payoff right within that episode. Sometimes it's a couple of episodes later. And specifically in this season, the farmhouse has been around since last season. I think we saw it for the first time. We finally get the payoff in this season near the very end. And I just, the show like that, their murder board they have where Cole's at the center of all these diagrams, and Jennifer sees when she's going to die and all this kind of stuff. That must be an artist representation of their whiteboard when they're in the writer's room. It has to be, because all these things are fitting together, and it also serves the purpose of providing the location of Titan. It's just very well done. And what really comes to the fore in Resurrection is the wonderful stuff that Jennifer gets to do. It's not often that you get to meet yourself at an older age. And I want to talk to myself, as you mentioned at the top. I think, Karen, that scene between the older and younger Jennifer was great. And it was probably the first time in the show where Jennifer didn't have to put on, I don't want to call it airs, but she didn't get like manic and get into all her double speak and things like that. And it was the moment of the greatest clarity for that character, and the biggest insight for us as viewers into her mindset. And it's also that whole trope of the road not taken as well, that the older Jennifer tells her that she didn't go to Titan, but she has a chance to go to Titan. And we see how poorly that decision actually works out. Yeah, I just thought that Jennifer had a really powerful episode here in Resurrection, Jesse, and I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on her.
She has become my favorite character. And this, and I'm always in love with someone who throws in pop culture references, especially when like the other people don't do. And she does the Die Hard reference, like, look, McClane. And the older Jennifer knowing that this is when she's going to die, but throwing. And so I'm now wondering, does young Jennifer get thrown back in time somehow to grow into being the old Jennifer? And therefore, do we have a bootstrap paradox? How long does she live in the future to go back? If this is what's always happened, how would it be? The old Jennifer is so wise and still just the touch of snarky and crazy. And then young Jennifer doesn't have that, using fortune cookie things as her wisdom, which is great. And when she looks at Cole and says, when have I ever been able to say no to you? That is a pure love. It is there romantic feelings there? Yes. Is there brother and sister feelings? Yes. Is there the bonding of going through a war together? It's all bundled up together. And I'm sure it's out there somewhere, but I would love, when I'm finished, to Google YouTube clips of all the snarky Jennifer and pop culture references in a row, because they're just a joy. Yeah. And I am going to go see a episode of the Schitt's Creek.
Yes, you have to.
Just to see it different, because I think she's brilliant. I think she is by far my favorite character and someone that I adore. And I hope we see more of old Jennifer, even though she's passed. But in a timey-wimey show, you never know.
She can be
back. She's just perfect. And I go again, that scene, when have I been able to say no to you? And just
she says it
Yeah.
as a young Jennifer and an
Yeah.
older Jennifer.
Yeah.
And
I
how about
love
that great scene, right? When they snort together,
Mhm.
right? When something funny
Snort
happens.
laughing. Yep.
And
Yeah.
they just and they look at each
So
other
cute.
amused. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
I love the line that old Jennifer says when younger Jennifer walks into the room. She says, "Hello, egg, I'm chicken." And it's just so cool that she has such insight about things that she can just glibly
Mhm.
say things like that. And that, boy, is she a great character. That's all I can say. Her older self, I think they've alluded to this a little bit, that as you age and you're this, what do they call it? A primary.
Mhm.
As you age, things settle in
Yeah.
your mind. I'm assuming it's because you've experienced all those things that happen in your brain.
And I think as you make choices through your life, then more doors close.
Exactly. And I feel like because Jennifer is taken to the future, she's experienced more of the things that have happened in her brain, and she's a little more lucid, because she does seem quite lucid, the younger Jennifer, with the daughters. Even though she's using the fortunes as her little sayings, I do feel like she's more lucid. And for the first time, she is seeing how she is not coping well. And I think that's not settling very well when she's with her daughters and they're not accepting her as the leader because she's so different.
Mhm.
And part of that really makes me feel this huge sympathy for her character, where she's brought in to take the place of her old self, and she's just going to slot right in and carry on and be this new old Jennifer kind of thing. And she definitely does not do that. The daughters are ready to follow the same Jennifer, and she's not the same.
Yeah.
And I think, like we've said, Emily Hampshire is so good at playing this character, and to see her in the same room as herself, obviously as a split screen kind of thing,
Mhm.
playing two different versions of herself against each other, just masterful, I think, and so well written.
Yeah. And transitioning into the last episode, then Blood Washed Away. This one works well on so many different levels. And again, as I mentioned, how the show weaves character motivations so that we believe the actions that characters are taking in that particular beat. The previous episode in Fatherland, the last scene between Cole and Cassie in 2044, he tells her that she did all the things she did for revenge of that because she was afraid. And then when he jumps back to 1957 and she's leaving the facility, she decides to not go to Titan. And then she decides to go back to 1957 because, as she tells Cole when she steps onto the hotel lobby, that she's tired of being afraid. So that motivation for her to make that decision to give up her revenge is plausible. I think it's probably it's maybe the one I had to hand wave the most, but I could still buy it, whatever quibbles I had. But then what I loved about it is that that betrayal from that episode colored their relationship for the whole, I don't know, it was 11 months that they were together. So that you would have thought they would have bonded over that time. But that wedge was there the whole time, they were at each other's throats through that whole episode. And I wasn't expecting that, but I when it happened, I loved it because I thought, okay, now they're going to have this reconciliation. And they still didn't have that reconciliation until the very end of the episode. And I just thought that they played on Cole's loyalty that he has for his friends, and that he was willing to, he was making the gesture to step away and let her have a happy life with him not in it, because he felt guilty that he had ruined her life. And and maybe Karen or Jesse, you can clarify a bit for me. She was afraid because she had lost control. So I'm not totally understanding why she and Cole got together at the end of the episode. I can understand from his perspective because he's always been in love with her. Is it because she was afraid of true love? I'm not quite sure exactly why they hooked up at the end. So I'll throw that out to the both of you, how you thought that played out and what your understanding of Jesse or Cassie's mindset was that made her just want to reconcile with Cole.
We have another trope here that someone gives up love for the betterment of the person they're in love with. That's a huge thing. And it's one of those things that if you're reading a book that has that in it, it's the turning point. It's the thing that causes the other person to realize how in love they are, or it's the catalyst for what happens.
Now that you say it, it's so obvious. I should have got it.
Yeah. But it's that turning point where, oh, they're gone. I guess I do have feelings for them. And what is it? Distance makes the heart grow fonder kind
Absence,
of thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Absence. So when Cassie wakes up and she realizes that Cole has left her there, she tries to continue, although she continues looking for him. We see the bellhop come and give her the what is it? The little thing from her report that says that Morrison has been found. And I think that's funny that it's the name that he uses in the previous episode.
Telegraph,
and it's Telegram. So stupid, Morrison. But she realizes that Cole would hold on to something, and that name being it. And she's hoping that Cole has kept that flame alive for her. And it's showing how she has continued to look for him, and yet she has become this nurse, and I'm putting it in air quotes because she is using her medical abilities from the future to help people in the 50s. And I think that's really cool that the doctor goes to her for advice on things. They've never heard of Lyme disease, and she has all this knowledge, and the doctor doesn't really question it too much because it is working on the patients. And she is carried on through all this in the hopes that at some point she'll find Cole again. And I think that's so cool that we see her resilience and then her absolute faith that she will find him again, like they're fated to be together. And we also see that that's subverted a little bit when Cole says, "I'm building this house for you." So he was always intending to, somewhere in the back of his mind, to go back and find Cassie, but it looked like he left her because it would make her life easier. And it did, and it didn't at the same time. And then the fact that she hasn't told Cole what she saw when she went to see the witness in the Red Forest kind of thing. And to see that all play out in a believable way, I thought was brilliant storytelling, that he finds this house. And again, we're talking about fate in this instance where he just happens to see the house that but again, it's like that cycle of she saw it in the future, so it has to happen in the past. He's building it up with the pine and all that. So every single line that the striking woman has put into Jennifer's mind, the blood has washed away and it rains, and the house of pine, you've been there before. I thought that was really a huge allegory for what she saw in her visions. And the fact that they finally get together there at the end of that episode, I think is the culmination of their feelings for each other, that he was jealous. She went on all these dates, and he's finally admitting, "Hey, I was going to come back for you." And she sees all these things with the house that he's sacrificed for her. And so there's this coming together. And again, we see it as completely believable. And that is, again, such good storytelling. I loved it.
Jesse.
As Karen was talking, I'm thinking of the Eagles' Wasted Time song, right? You never thought you'd be alone this far down the line.
Yep.
But I know what's been on your mind. You're afraid it's all been wasted time. Almost a year, they could have had a life together.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He slept on the couch. They
Yep.
didn't find they worked together, but they could have had a chance to have this life together.
Mm-hmm.
This enjoyed each other's company, not just physically, but emotionally, and be there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was wasted time.
Mm-hmm.
He feels like he's ruined her life, right? That trope you're talking about, Karen.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I had not gotten into your life, none of this would have happened. Therefore, the best thing I can do is to get out of your life. But because I'm driven, I'm going to do something for you. And she's now going, but my life is better because you're in it. And why you big lug are you not realizing that? And I think I'm sure that as people were watching this when it first came out, there was a lot of push, like, oh, let's get these two together. Let's get these two together. And then when they finally admit they feel for each other, Gasoline and Fire is just an explosion of love and passion. And so it's very satisfying with the scenes of the massacre, right? It is such, and once again, talk about a filmmaking cliche, right? Cutting across happiness to destruction, happiness to destruction, but it's so well done. I'm like, yeah, I know they're trying to manipulate me, but check the box, they did.
Yeah.
So I think this is, and once again, they go 11 months and 5 minutes. They do that flash. Okay, we don't have time to talk about this.
Yeah.
And to hold on to that anger for that long, I think when they get together and when they finally talk, often what's frustrating about romantic movies and when they go to another level is when there's the plot, if they would just talk to each other, this wall between them would drift away.
Right.
And when it's really well written, they do tell them, and there's still something else happening. So I just loved everything about this. Not only did we get to see hot time traveler booty, but it was, you wonder where are they at now, right? And okay, so this is how the house was built, but how does the house become alive? Yeah.
It obviously has something to do with Cassie and Cole, right?
I mean, and we have debated that, is Cole ultimately going to be the witness, right? Is Cole, we know he's the center point of this somehow. So my thought is that they will not keep these two together because that's what TV shows do. But it would be really cool if they kept them together and wrote around that, and they were there to give all this. So
I suspect that won't happen, but we'll see, because they've changed relationships and motivations so much already,
right,
that there's just no way that this static moment is going to last, especially with the conclusion of this episode where they failed in their bid to stop the primary.
Yep.
And the group that went to Titan they're all dead. So this paradox is going to continue, and we need to see the next episode to see how they're going to address that, because this really felt like a season ending episode for me.
It could be a series ending
or a series ending.
Yeah.
And they've got, there was one episode in the farmhouse, they had the date 1957 to 59. It's interesting that, because Cole, maybe he got to this house in 57 or the end of 57, but but I don't know how long Jennifer, like they were there for a year already.
Yeah.
And then however long Cassie was in a coma, that puts it into 58. So
yeah, but he bought the house while she was in the coma.
Yeah. I like the fact they got together in 58. That's the year I was born, so I thought that
was that's nice.
little connection for me personally anyhow.
Nice.
My only frustration and it's a small one. With these 3 episodes, was the final scene in Titan. I was expecting the witness to reveal themselves, but he didn't, or she didn't. And also with that episode, before I get too much into the future stuff, I just, again, I have to reiterate the point you made, Karen, like the title, Blood Washed Away. The fact that we've seen this red forest reference all the time, and that it turns out to be that Cole cuts his thumb on the saw and his blood is on the grass, and then she's washing his hand under the sink. I just thought that was a wonderful allegory for that. And
I agree.
And you have to wonder, is that moment the moment that is coloring the nature and appearance of the red storm time paradox? Like,
right.
Because that kind of ties into my belief that Cole might be the prime, or the witness. But it seems to be that the time storm seems to be a manifestation of that moment.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested to see how that plays out.
Of the whatever the mantra is that the witness gave to everyone. Yeah.
And
so it's not Ramsay's son, is my conclusion. That was what I was thinking could be the case, but I don't think it is. I think it's something to do with Cassie and Cole for sure.
Yeah. So now we're left with the future's lost, and
everybody's dead.
The past is lost, and Cole and Cassie are living in this little bubble that for however long they would live a natural lifespan, they'll have that time. But without knowing, like and Jesse was mentioning earlier, they were just, fans were wondering if the series was going to get another season or whatnot. This almost seemed to be written as to be a potential series ending episode. So I don't know if that was the intent or not, or a safety valve that they had written for the series. I don't know. But again, for the life of me, and I'll turn to you first, Jesse, is I cannot fathom what they're going to pull out of their hats to continue the show going forward. I can always pluck out another character that they haven't introduced to us yet that could change the timeline, but I'm hoping that that's something that's based on something that we've already seen at the very least, because that's the way the show has operated to this point. But I'm racking my brains out trying to figure out where can they go from here, because every avenue of time travel has been lost to them. There's the machine's gone, and it's too early in the time period for them to go to Katarina to try to recreate the experiment. I'm not sure how they're going to go forward. I don't know how you're feeling about where we're sitting right now.
That is the reason why I wanted to go to the next episode, because I absolutely had that. Here's my theory of timey-wiminess.
Bring it on, Doctor Who, man.
Yes. So Cole and Cassie put a newspaper article the way they've been doing, an ad. And they somehow send a message that you need to get them from the hotel at a certain date and time, right, of their end, and do it in the future a certain date and time that before these things happen.
Okay.
And then say, okay, you need to send us back, but you need to do this to get ready for this. But the worry is that's a paradox, right? So I don't know. But that is the closest I've come, is they somehow are able to communicate, and they're able to jump before the Red Forest starts doing, and they do something to either, you can't build a built-in machine, but do something that can circumvent what's happening or jump past it. That's what I see.
Very good.
Yeah, that's my theory. By the way, wasn't it lovely to see the doctor protecting her daughter, and then seeing that? In another podcast, that would be a whole subject, right?
Yep.
Just their relationship. They're just too busy to talk about it. But I just wanted to bring it up. That was a nice little
Olivia
moment.
Yeah.
And the idea that she's that she's this badass.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was a very throwaway comment in an earlier episode, but they were realizing that whoever the witness is has time knowledge as well. So is that facility on Titan another time machine?
Mm.
That's my question. There was a lot of machinery there.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have mentioned that whoever the witness is also has the similar knowledge as
Series.
time
Yeah,
stuff.
I like
So
that.
that's
like that,
just my.
Yeah.
We did see it look like a huge.
But why would the
bigger-
witness want to change anything? They got the result that they wanted.
They don't. They want to make sure that it stays the same.
And maybe the witness knows that this is what has to be done, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my thought, that they're trying. They know that Kathy and Cole would change things if they could. So
Yeah.
the witness is making sure that doesn't happen. That's
Yeah.
just my thought. So they're like battling time machines,
Mhm.
the good time machine and the bad time machine kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I had the same thought. How is this going to get fixed? Everybody's dead.
Yeah.
How on earth is this going to get fixed?
Yeah.
So-
The old joke, kill them all and let God sort them out. Just, yeah.
Where's God?
Yeah. What's your theory?
I like both of your theories, and to be honest, I think something's going to be introduced that we haven't been privy to yet. But once it's revealed, we're going to go, oh, geez,
Oh,
they talked
that's
about
what
that
happened.
way
Right.
back in episode 2 or something like
And-
that. So we'll see. But the important point I think that this episode made is the future is not fixed.
Right.
Even though
Yeah.
they failed in this episode, Jennifer made the decision to go to Titan this time where she hadn't the previous time. Now,
Right.
we never got to see out how the timeline played out if that original decision had held true, but it brought her to this point in the episode in Resurrection, but they hadn't gone to Titan yet. So if she hadn't decided to go as her younger self, but had decided to go as her older self, would it have made any difference? She would have handled the daughters better.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, I don't think it would have changed anything in a way. So you can take different paths, but there's so many different theories about time travel, but there's like touchstones that those moments are always going to happen. You might get there in 75 different ways, but when you get to that moment, it doesn't really matter anymore because this is like a fixed event that's going to happen. So that, again, the series is leaving it the interpretation to both of those. The only thing I forgot to mention, I think it was in Resurrection. No, it wasn't. Remember, maybe it was Resurrection. There was a scout that the daughters had sent out, and she came back injured. And at first, I thought it was Hannah.
It was Hannah.
Yeah.
But Hannah showed up later again, right? She was
Hannah stayed with them and went to Titan again.
Titan. Yeah, I thought,
Yeah.
okay, it was her.
He was the one who was sent out as a scout.
Okay.
And she came back and said it wasn't there. And then when they got there, she said it wasn't here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So I was a little confused at that because some of their style of dress is all the same. And I thought,
Yeah.
but she doesn't look injured anymore. She recovered that quickly. I don't know. I was just a little confused by that. And the knives that the witness and was that the 12 monkeys, the rest of them, or is that another group that we haven't got the name for yet? I don't know, but
I have no
those were
idea.
very interesting knives that
They were
carried.
very cool.
Yes.
Different
they
design.
were.
I've never seen that kind of design before, where it's
Very Klingonish.
yeah.
As far as
So there's like handles, or there's like
The
extensions.
handle is
past
part of the knife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like there's extensions of the handle go past your hand, and then the grip is further in closer to the blade of the knife. So yeah, that was very
Like
interesting.
brass
Almost trowels or
knuckles,
something.
but a knife.
yeah.
Yeah.
So very interesting stuff. And that mask, that's a very
Plague mask.
plague mask is interesting. And we're almost done the second season, and the plague is still there, but it's really fallen into the background against all this other stuff. And I don't really care that it has. So that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you guys a question. In Blood Washed Away, we got a murder mystery where they were looking for the primary, and I couldn't figure out who it would be because I knew it wasn't the guy that they thought was the primary.
Yeah.
It can't be the guy that you think it is, right?
But he was the only
Weirdo.
the friend he had to drink with in the bar and his coworker. He was
Right.
he was the only character that got any extensive screen time. In
But
the
he
end,
wasn't.
it had to be him. But
He wasn't the primary, though.
No,
He was the messenger.
His wife.
So
It was his
his
wife.
wife was the primary, who we never saw even once until she came. He just mentioned her,
Yeah.
that she had cancer and that he couldn't kill her. He fell in love with her, and that
He killed his partner. Was he
co-patriot, the other
relationship
messenger, died. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I honestly, I thought if he's anything, he's the primary, but it turned out that it was his wife. And that really, I had no idea that was coming, that his
Right.
wife was going to be the primary. So did you guys have any inkling?
No, I did not.
Yeah, because there was just so much going on that's a weakness or a character trait of storytelling, that you have to introduce the character that's going to be the perpetrator, the act that you're looking for. But he was such a low key guy that you just you know, and he told all that stuff about his wife, and it was like diverted my attention from his possible purpose.
Yeah, and what I thought that was a chance to tell Cole, you're wasting your time, right? You
yes, that's what I took it as. Yeah, so they Trojan horse
because
it.
My wife is dying, and then you do think about that at this point. Think how horrible chemo is horrible now. You can imagine back then.
I didn't even know they had it back then, to be honest.
I didn't either, and so
I think it was very new. Did you see the cancer posters up in the hospital?
Yeah. And it was, and so I thought that was, I did not feel like it was, oh, look, when you watch a mystery show, you're like, okay, that's the most famous guest star. That's the murder.
That's the murder.
Right?
Yeah. They really hit it well in this episode.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think that's all I got. I'll go around the table one more time, give you guys last words, but I can't wait to watch Memory of Tomorrow, and an intriguing title. And then we have the first episode of season 3, which I haven't looked up yet, but I'll leave that for the next podcast. So anyhow, next podcast will only be 2 episodes. Really looking forward to seeing where they're going with this. And I have to say that my interest level in the series has gotten progressively higher with each episode that I watch. So I don't know how long. I hope they can sustain this, because this series is doing the serialized versus the episode of the week mix extremely well. It's because in most types of shows that do this, it's the episode of the week story for the first 90% of the episode, and maybe in the last 5 minutes you get something that's referencing the overarching series story. But these episodes they're mixing it all the way through, and I like it. Some of the payoffs are instantaneous, almost within the episode. Like when old Jennifer comes up on the building and looks at Deacon and says, "Oh, he doesn't have the scar," and then he gets that scar right away. I just love how they do that. And of course, the payoff with the farm, something that we've been seeing and the Red Forest we've been seeing for so long. So I just can't wait to see what the series is going to give us over the remaining 2 seasons. So,
as a side note, before I sum up, I just looked up chemotherapy, and the timing is exactly right. 1942 was the first case, since they were developing it based on mustard gas, and
which they mentioned in the show.
Exactly correct. During World War II was the first use of that for lymphoma. So anyway, I just looked it up and wanted to impart that knowledge.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But yeah, I like this series so much right now. And as Jesse said, it's becoming very difficult for me not to continue to watch after the allotted episodes. I am doing my very best to shut it down at that point. I do that also with Babylon 5, but this week I was okay to stop Babylon 5 after 1 episode. But man, I wanted to continue, because where it left off in these 3 episodes, I need to know what is going to happen next. And that, again, it's the sign of a great series if you are dying to watch the next episode, which I was. Not literally, but figuratively.
Yep.
Yeah, I just am loving this series. I have not had time, because of other things going on, to rewatch the episodes, but I have an itch to rewatch them, right? And with us only doing 2, my thought is before next Sunday, I will probably do that, watch it a second time,
right?
Because I just really love this, the idea of all this. There is so much complexity and so many interesting characters. And yeah, it was very hard when you end with everybody is dead and
Mhm.
going. And next episode, indeed, it like, no, get out. It
Yeah.
is really tough.
It's
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah. And so I am just so glad you suggested this, Lou.
Yeah, I'm relieved as well because I thought, boy, if this turns out to be a chore, I've signed you guys up for some
Yeah.
painful sessions, but it's just getting better with every installment that we're doing.
Yeah.
It's definitely been worth it to this point. Yeah. Any other last thoughts before we disconnect our tethers?
I don't. Like I said, I've really just have enjoyed this time together. I'm very happy with it. It
You'll
is.
have to start pimping it on your Doctor Who podcast.
Mhm.
Yes, I will. I am. And I did this last Doctor Who. We did. I talked about this, that how
Oh,
much we're
okay.
enjoying this. Yeah, I don't know if Charles has seen it. I do think this is something that, and I'm sure people are, I know I posted it in the Tuning into Sci-Fi TV podcast, their forum, their Discord pages, and 2 or 3 people immediately responded, said, yes, this is one of the best shows that Sci-Fi ever did, that you're really going to enjoy this. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to it.
All righty.
Yeah.
And with that, it's time for the tethers to snap again. In the interim between our next episode, if you're out there floating in your own personal space bubble, where could you connect with the two of you, Karen?
I'm already in space, so if you find me out there, that's good. I am at Oliveria on the Twitter machine and other various social medias, and my blog is aliesstuff.com. The link is in my Twitter bio, and the landing page there is a lot of stuff that I link to.
Awesome. And Jesse?
So I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. And please go to iTunes, rate and review us on this podcast. We would really love it. Go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, post a comment, share us what you're liking, and tell us what you want us to cover next. We've got a little bit time left since we're going through this, but would always love to hear y'all's feedback.
Oh, fantastic. And of course, can be found on YouTube at Lou's Reviews, where you'll find this podcast along with our Babylon 5, my writer's podcast, or Stephen King podcast, and on Twitter or X, you can find me at Lou W. Sitzma. And with that, tether time is over. Goodbye, everyone. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And scene.